Hello and welcome to another episode, and this week I'm going to discuss planning versus exploring. And well, I say planning versus exploring. Perhaps it shouldn't be planning versus, maybe it should be planning and exploring. So to get the best out of photography trips, you're going to do some planning and some exploring when you get there. How much of each you do will be totally dependent on the type of person you are, but this is what I do to get the most out of my trips. So, part one of this video is about planning, and we'll do that here. And in part two, I'll be at Cher Hill, and we'll see whether any of this planning has paid off in the quality of my photos. Okay, so let's talk about planning. I mean, how much planning is too much planning? It depends on where you're going. So if you're going somewhere and it's once in a lifetime trip, then maybe you do a lot more planning. If you're going to somewhere which it actually be going later today, I've been there before. I know what to expect. I'm going to do quite limited planning, but I'll show you how I would do it today if I was going somewhere I've perhaps never been before. I think one thing important to say is that all the planning in the world is not going to guarantee you get that one shot, but all the planning in the world is going to give you the best possible chance to get that shot. So perhaps the first problem we need to address is where we're going to go, or when we go somewhere, what are we going to photograph? This, I guess, finding somewhere that you want to photograph in the first place is all about looking at the websites, looking at books, magazines. I don't personally like to use sites like 500 pixels to find things to photograph, because I tend to find that if you're not careful, you're trying to recreate their photos and not finding interesting compositions yourself. But if it's a broad area that you're going to go to and you want to know what to photograph in that area, then these books by PhotoView, they're really good. So they cover quite a few areas in the country, in the UK. This one's in Dorset, and it will tell you a list of places that are worth going to photograph. It will tell you where to park. It will tell you what time of day, what time of year is best to photograph there. There are images in there of the compositions you'll see at those places. I don't tend to use them very much, but I do use the ideas there to just go and explore. So that might be my starting place. Another great starting place is perhaps Outdoor Photography magazine. There are other magazines. Outdoor Photography magazine has a feature in it every month of places to go and photograph. So originally I was going to show you all of the planning tools I used, and I recorded some video, but I think we'd have been here like half an hour later, so I'm going to quickly just talk through them, and if there's any of these that are interesting to you, put a comment in, and perhaps I can do another video another time and go in a little bit more detail. So I think the first thing I'd sort of use when planning is Google Maps. So Google Maps, you can quickly have a look if someone else has taken photos in the area you're interested in, and get a very good sort of cross section of different views. Secondly, Google Earth. So Google Earth gives you a 3D representation of the world. So I can then place myself in the world. And the clever thing about Google Earth is that you can run a day-night cycle. So you can see where the sun is going to be in terms of casting shadows and shining on surfaces. So that's a really useful thing to use. And I guess an extension of that is something like Photo Pills, which is an app on the phone. And here you can place yourself as a pin on a map of the area you're interested in, and run the day-night cycle, and you can see, you know, exactly where the sun's going to rise, exactly where the sun is going to set. I find it a little unintuitive to use, but there is a Photo Pills channel, and I'll link to it, and so I'd advise anyone interested in Photo Pills to go and watch some of their videos. It's a really useful app. Then if you're in the UK, we have the Ordnance Survey maps. Great resource. They run at 1 to 50,000, 1 to 25,000 scale. They are all available online now. It's a £20 a year subscription, so they're available on your laptops and your phones. And you know, the great thing there is that you can take your phone with you where you go. One thing to be careful though is signal. So if you plot a route on the area that you're interested in, you can save that route and download it to your phone, and then if you go out of phone signal, you've still got it. Otherwise, you know, you can be in the middle of nowhere and no map. And I guess the most challenging bit of any adventure that we're going to go on is the weather, and you never know what the weather's going to be doing. I would advise you to use multiple apps to get a good view of what the weather's going to be like where you're going. I use the Met Office, so Met Office in the UK. It's fairly reliable on a macro scale, so give you a general idea of what the weather's doing in that location. There's another app that I use called weather.co.uk, and that's good because that has maps for both precipitation and cloud cover, and so you can run a sequence of the weather over the period that you're interested in, and that, you know, will give you a pretty good indication of what that cloud cover is going to be. But if you're going to the coast, check those tide times. So perhaps the last bit of advice I can give you in terms of planning is to turn up at your location 2 to 3 hours before you think is going to be the optimum time to shoot, and then at that point, you know, you can do the exploring part, but at least you've got a good idea of perhaps where the vantage points are going to be. So yeah, let's go and explore. So arrived at Cherhill about 7:10, and that gives me plenty of time to do some exploration. This is where probably a lot of the, if I just turn this round, a lot of the photos around here are taken. You might just be able to see there, we've got on the left, we've got the White Horse. That was put up there in the 1700s, and then the monument, which was a monument to a person rather than a war memorial, which I thought it was, and that was put up in the 1800s. I'm just off the path, but there's a path that goes up here, and that follows all the way up to the monument, and then across the top and down, and a path comes back to here. So I'm going to follow that path and see what we can see. Last time I just took a panoramic shot from here, which was, I'd say, okay. Nothing special. Probably show it. So let's see, with a bit of exploration, what we can find this time. At the top, or close to the top, and I think you probably can see behind me the sky's quite grey. Well, the forecast said. I guess a bit of sun, a bit of cloud, and I guess in that direction it is brighter and there is a bit of sun. But I guess if I turn this around, it's a pretty incredible view for Wiltshire. And I say for Wiltshire, I guess all the people living in the north of the country get views like this everywhere, but here it's a rare bit of high ground. And if I just stop us there, I guess there you can see a better view of the monument and the White Horse. Every now and again we get a little glint of orange reflected on the horse, and it's quite a nice view across here. And I'm just going to try and take a shot with this grass in the foreground. And yeah, I think with the sky quite dark, I'd have wished I'd bought me filters now, but hey ho, we'll take the shot and see what we get. So as usual, I've got ISO set 64. I've got f11. I don't mind that the grass here won't be in focus, it's blowing in the wind anyway. And I've got manual focus on because of the grass in front of me, 15th of a second. Whilst the light up here is pretty useless, it's grey, there's no colour, there's no sun. I did find a chap up here who was painting, so I ended up taking some pictures of him. I've moved off to not disturb him, but yeah, it was quite nice. Just nice to see someone else enjoying the solitude up here. You can hear the odd car, but you know, in the main, it feels pretty far away from everything, which, given we're in Wiltshire, is pretty rare. Okay, so we're back now, and what did we learn? Well, even though I said in the video that I had arrived in plenty of time, actually I could have done with more time. And I think that's one thing that I'd sort of give as advice, is always give yourself lots of time. You know, an example of where more time would have been helpful is the view you get when you're walking to somewhere and the view you get walking away from somewhere is always, you know, completely different, and in your mind gives you, you know, different compositional opportunity. So the other thing is, I said that there's no guarantees no matter how much planning you did, and that was true because the weather was supposed to be intermittent sunshine and cloud. All I got was grey sky, so there was no colour in the sky at all. And the perhaps obvious shots with the White Horse with the sky in the background, with beautiful colour in from the setting sun, you know, that wasn't going to happen. So, you know, whatever you do, you're not always going to get the shot you want. And that's probably the third thing to take away from this, is that, and I'll do a video about this another time, is shooting locally means that whilst I didn't get perhaps the shot I wanted, it wasn't a wasted visit, because I think the shot I did get with the right lighting would be pretty spectacular, with the shadow and the highlights on those rolling fields in front of the two, you know, monuments. So, you know, I've learned something, and by planning and doing the right amount of exploration, you'll learn something too. So Thank you for watching. If you liked, please subscribe or like, and see me next time. Bye.